Coming up on Marriage Today with Jimmy and Karen.
You can't blame your spouse for your sexual sins. Even if your needs are unmet, sin is a choice that we make. We can be pure. We can turn to God.
We have a past. We all have a past, and no one's perfect. And so I think it's so important as a couple to, go to each other and just say, that was wrong when I did that. Or, that was something you didn't want, but I wanted it and I was forcing it. Or something like that, where, you ask each other's forgiveness, and then you just have a clean slate of, let's start fresh. Let's do it God's way. Let's do it the right way. And let's do enjoy it.
The 5 ingredients of sexual fulfillment in marriage. Those are some things that we just need to believe about sex. Just basic things that we need to believe about sex. These are 5 ingredients. Number 1, commit to meeting your spouse's sexual needs in a committed and faithful manner. Again, 1 Corinthians 7 says when we get married, our bodies belong to each other. Not a license for abuse, but a license for use. You never use your body to punish your spouse. This is your place of pleasure and delight, and it's yours. I'm so thankful for Karen. Karen has never used her body to punish me or withdraw from me, and she has been faithful even through the difficult times of our marriage. She's always been faithful to meet my sexual needs. About 20% of women are more sexual than their husbands. But let me just say this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's more sexual. The only thing that matters is that you say to your spouse, I'm committed to meeting your sexual needs. I will faithfully meet your sexual needs for the rest of our life. It might not be my need. Now, I'm not going to sin. I'm obviously not going to violate my conscience before God. But again, there are many ways that we can please each other. There are many ways that we can enjoy sex in marriage together. I am committed. You will never not have your sexual needs met because of me. I will be a faithful partner. You're more important than anything else in my life except for Jesus. And I will faithfully serve you sexually. Number 2. Ingredient of sexual fulfillment marriage is communication of your sexual needs and allowing your spouse to communicate. A lot of times this is the issue that we just can't talk about. And is you need to talk. What is it that you like? What is it that you dislike? Sex was one of those issues for Karen and me before we had our vision retreat that we never sat down and talked about that much. We just get in bed and have sex and just, no pun intended, just kind of feel things out, So we would, but what happened was frustration, is that we were having sex, but we weren't verbally communicating and saying, yes, I like that, no, I don't like that, yes, do this, no, I don't do that. It was just frustrating. So at one of our vision retreats, we just sat down and talked about sex. And we said, listen, what is our vision for our sex life? What do we believe that God is saying about our sex life? And we took sex and made it an open topic where we had plenty of time on our vision retreat just to let's talk about sex for a while. And we talked about my needs, we talked about her needs, we talked about things I like and don't like, we talked about things that she liked and didn't like. It was the greatest discussion we had ever had, and it changed our sex life because we talked about it. Again, don't be ashamed of this issue. It's an important issue in your marriage, but you need to verbally communicate, and you need to both be in agreement. And if you do and you get in bed, you're going to have a great time. If you don't, if you're not communicating, a lot of your communication is just going to be through, not saying things, but just kind of pushing your spouse away and being negative, and they're going to take that as rejection. So talk about it and communicate what you want and all that. Number 3, commit to sexual purity to protect the integrity of your marriage. Sexual purity. Say, I'm committed to being sexual pure, and this is a big deal. Let me talk about some standards of sexual purity. If you're going to be pure, here's what you do. Number 1, I will not allow fantasy lust or lust for another person in my life. I'll take my thoughts captive. The most important thing sexually is your thought life. Pornography, temptation, those kinds of things, it's not centered in your sexual organs. It's centered in your mind. The only way you can overcome sexual temptation is to take control of your thoughts. You can't take thoughts out of your mind. You can only replace them with greater thoughts. Biblical meditation, according to Psalm 1, promises that we will succeed in everything that we do in our lives. And so the first commitment is, I'm not going to let people in my mind that I'm having sex with. I'm going to battle, and I'm going to take control of that. Number two, I will not develop an inappropriate emotional or sexual relationship with another person, regardless of the condition of our marriage. Let me say this now, and I don't want to say this in a legalistic manner. I think it's a great idea for couples to have a Facebook account, that you sit down together, and that on the internet that you're very accountable, and that what you're doing is done in the presence and with the knowledge of your spouse. And maybe your spouse always can't be present, but I believe this was in England, and this was in the newspaper in England. We ran it in one of our Marriage Day letters. There was a couple cheating with each other on the internet. And they were in different places in their home online cheating with each other. And they didn't know it. But finally, they arranged a get-together. And they showed up at the same place at the same time, and they divorced. When they found, you've been cheating online? Well, so have you. They divorced. But you know what was happening? They were on there saying, to each other, things that they weren't saying to each other physically. They fell in love with each other on the internet when they were falling out of love with each other physically. Kind of an interesting dynamic there. You can have the password to every computer or phone I've got. Nothing I'm doing is hidden from you. And let me just say something. If you don't have the password to everything your spouse is doing, there's something wrong with your relationship. I'm not hiding one thing from you. Number three, I will turn the unmet needs in my life to God and trust Him for the answers. I'm not turning to sin. If we've got problems, I'm going to do the right thing and I'm going to turn to God. You can't blame your spouse for your sexual sins. Even if your needs are unmet, sin is a choice that we make. We can be pure. We can turn to God. Karen, in our sex life over the years, Karen prays about that. She takes her sexual issues, and I do too. My relationship with God is I talk to God about it. He's my very best friend, and He's my safest place in the world. I talk to Him about everything. Everything. There's not a thought in my mind. I'll be praying and I'll have a bad thought and I'll say, Lord, you know that thought that just came into my mind. And I talk to Him about it. Bring it all before the Lord. He knows His throne is the throne of grace. He cares. He's not grossed out by it. And He'll help you to deal with those issues. But if you don't take it to God, it's going to go somewhere else. Number four, I'll be honest and accountable about my temptations. And especially those that could compromise my marriage. Maybe that you're struggling with pornography or something like that, is that you need to get help. You need to become accountable. In a book called Intimate Issues, it was written by two Christian ladies that we've had on our television program, Christian women, 90% of Christian women say that they've been attracted to someone other than their husband. 90% of Christian women, I've been attracted to somebody other than my husband. Well, let me just say, we all have been. I have been, Karen has been, we all have been attracted to someone other than our spouse. That's not the issue. The issue is, what are we going to do about it? Especially when our marriage isn't as good as it should be. Especially when we're going through problems. I'm going to be accountable. I'm not going to find a group of people that will tell me what I want to hear. And I'm not going to go off into darkness and do something wrong with it. I'm going to be accountable and sexually pure. And number five, I'm not going to be close friends with people who are violating the covenant of their marriage. I'm not going to have friends. Sometimes you'll go to the office, or you'll be with a group of friends and they're committing adultery, they're going to strip bars, men and women going to strip bars. They're doing things like that. I'm not going to have friends like that. My friends aren't perfect, but my friends are committed to the Lord. And my friends don't do that kind of stuff. Or at least they're not practicing those kind of things and giving approval to it. So those are the things that are going to make the difference in your sex life of whether you're pure or not, because we know adultery and sexual sin and pornography and things like that, it devastates a lot of marriage relationships. Number four, foundation of sexual pleasure in marriage. Create an atmosphere of sexual pleasure. Create an atmosphere. Work hard at making your marriage pleasurable sexually. Romance outside the bedroom. Especially important for women, that you romance your wife, that you meet her emotional needs, that you pursue her. Have a date night every week. Every week have a date night where you romance your wife and you take care of her emotional needs. Plan sexual encounters on a regular basis when you have the most time. You plan sex. And especially when our kids were young, Karen and I planned, we'd say, our code word was being together. Are we going to be together Tuesday night? And being together means we're going to have sex. And so we'd say, Tuesday night, we're going to have sex. She said, okay. That meant we're going to prepare for this. We're going to make sure that we're not too tired. We're going to make sure that we have the time. We're going to make sure the kids are taken care of. And by the way, we had her nights and my nights. And we would say, is this your night or is this my night? What does that mean? Because my nights are different than her nights. Some time we had our nights, but a lot of times. And so if it was her night, I knew what to expect. Okay, and I came in prepared that I'm going to focus tonight on meeting her needs in her way. We're going to have sex, but it's going to be different than when I have sex my way. And so that's what we did. And we were creative and energetic. You can think about it as long as you want to, but I'm just saying. But we both got our needs met. That's the thing I'm trying to say. It wasn't all my way or her way. And sometimes it was just our nights. But the longer we were married, the more we enjoyed the same things. But we had special times. Sometimes morning is the best time to have sex. Sometimes you're just having a quickie. Sometimes you're just having sex and it's a quickie and that's all it is. And you go on. But sometimes you need a longie. And you need several hours to be together. And you need the time to enjoy each other, to talk, to share sex and to please each other physically. And so you can plan those things. In fact, it needs to be planned. It needs to be, a weekly issue in your marriage to where, 2 or 3 times this week, we're going to have times where we're together sexually, but especially one of those is going to be really special. And the last thing is this, the fifth thing is this, communicate and deal with sexual problems together. If you have sexual problems, deal with it, because most of us are going to deal with sexual problems, lack of desire or whatever. It could be chemical, it could be unresolved conflict. You don't desire sex, it could be that there's conflict in our marriage, stress and fatigue, whatever it might be. If you're having a problem with sexual desire, go to the doctor. Or if you need to go get counseling, because there's an emotional issue. It may be past abuse. Sometimes people have been sexually abused in their past, and it has a lot of problems related to your present. You need to get help for that. Listen, when you're having problems sexually, your spouse is being affected by that. And so don't strand your spouse sexually by not dealing with your problems, whether it's medical, whether it's emotional, whether it's whatever it is. If I've got a problem, I'm going to deal with my problem aggressively for the sake of our marriage. I hope you enjoyed that teaching. That is a really important teaching about marriage. That comes from my full seminar called Marriage on the Rock. It is a 10-part seminar. We want to get it to you along with the book, but first of all, for your gift of any amount right now, to support the mission and the ministry of Marriage Today. We go all over the world helping people succeed in marriage, helping marriages to stay together and solve problems, and helping little children to stay together with their parents. It's one of the most important things that we do as a ministry. When you support us here at Marriage Today, we're going to bless you. We're going to send you for your gift of any amount this teaching called The Most Important Issue in Marriage. And it is. It's the most important teaching you will ever hear when you send a gift of any amount here to support the ministry and mission of Marriage Today, which is so critical in the day that we live in. For your gift of $50 or more, we'll send you the full 10-part audio series of Marriage on the Rock. It's a full CD series along with a book, Marriage on the Rock. But for your gift of $110, we'll send you the DVD series. Full 10-part DVD series, part of what you saw today, but the full series along with the Marriage on the Rock book, and as a bonus, Happy, Happy Love. That's our romance book. That gives you date night tips and just how to keep the love alive in your marriage every single day. We want to get these important resources into your hands, and here's how you can get them.
Marriage on the Rock, the best-selling book and series, is the essential resource to having the marriage of your dreams. Through this power-packed series, marriage expert Jimmy Evans will show you how to deal with real-life challenges and offer easy-to-understand solutions that will transform your relationship. Jimmy will address all the major issues a couple will encounter, like communication, finances, sex, kids, his and her needs, blended families, and much more. For your gift of any amount, you'll receive the CD single, The Most Important Issue in Marriage. For your gift of $50 or more, we'll send you the Marriage on the Rock book and CD series. For your gift of $110 or more, you'll receive the book and DVD series, plus the Passion Reigniting Happy Happy Love book. Discover God's design for your dream marriage. Whether you've been married for years or just preparing for the journey, experience Marriage on the Rock today.
Intimacy is the prize of marriage. It's the prize. It's when you get intimacy, you got everything. There will never be a day in my life I don't love Karen Evans. I've made my mind up once and for all, and I'll never change it. You have a 100% chance of success in marriage, but you have to do it God's way. This program is on sexual fulfillment in marriage, and it's a big deal. You know, sex is the only unique feature of marriage, and it's something that's important really for a lifetime of marriage. And so, Karen, we have, when we do these kind of programs, you know, we get a lot of questions from viewers on this topic. There's a lot of misinformation in the area of sex, but as I said in the teaching, this is God's subject. God created it, He created everything good, and this is something that we need to get information about from the right sources. So we've got some questions.
That's right. It says, Jimmy, how can I get my wife more excited about sex? She's not into it like she used to be.
Well, great. And a lot of men, you know, we think in different terms, and sex is something that is one of our primary needs. And to us, it's very physical. Is we want, you know, direct sexual stimulation. We can turn on instantly. A man can have the worst day he's ever had at work, come home, Armageddon's tomorrow. He says, well, let's kill a few hours having sex. You know, it's like, we're very compartmental. We're just so different as it relates to sex in marriage. But for a woman, for a man to get his wife interested in sex, you have to remember, her first need is security. And by that, it means you pastor your wife all day long, and literally every event in her life is connected to her sexuality. So her security means you're tuned in. What makes her insecure is the feeling that you're checked out. Well, that's going to make her less sexual. Okay, so the next need that she has is for open and honest communication. And see, years ago there was a Reader's Digest talking about sex secrets that women wish their husbands knew. And one of the most important sex secrets that women wanted their husbands to know is talk was a turn on for them. And men are just thinking, we talk way too much already, you know that. But patiently talk to her. And when I say talk to her, it's like us, Karen, I hated that when we first got married. I thought you were nosy and I didn't want to feed the monster and, you know, that you always wanted to talk. But what I found is that when I sat and began to patiently talk to you and give you full answers for the questions that you had, you opened up sexually, which was a shock to me.
Well, as a woman, women connect with other women talking.
Right.
So, of course, that's the way we communicate. We love it. And so that's the special part about a man and a woman is sexually, you know, that's what we can have in common, but it's the talking that connects a woman to another person.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what, I love to talk.
Well, then another need that women have is non-sexual touching and affection. And again, there's not anything in a man's brain that can get this, just trust me, is the more non-sexually affectionate you are, the more sexual your wife becomes. And so obviously during the act of sex, there's some sexual touching, but even in the act of sex, the more soft and non-sexual a husband is, the more sexual she becomes. Another need that a wife has is leadership. Not to be dominated, but she wants her husband to be the initiator. So you say, well, my wife's just not interested in sex anymore. Are you tuned out? Are you talking to her? Are you affectionate with her in non-sexual ways? And are you initiating the well-being of the finances and of the romantic life and of the children and of the spirituality and of things like that. And so men think in terms of, my wife's not interested in sex. I really need to start, kind of buffing up and, get that gold chain, strut around the house, and just let her see the bod. If she could just ever see the bod in the right light, we're going to get there quick. Women are not blind, but they're less visual than men. And so men are always trying our stuff, take her to a raunchy movie or something, that'll get her there. Your wife, if you will love her sacrificially, talk to her, be soft and non-sexual with her, and be the leader of the home, she will be the most sexual that she can be, I promise. First of all, I've been married a long time, and I've taught seminars to lots of folks and helped lots of folks. We have our differences, but basically we're the same. And this is a big deal. So you don't give up and don't do the wrong thing. You love your wife the way God intended, and she will become sexual, I promise.
That's good. Okay. Is there anything off limits when my wife and I have sex?
Sure, of course there are. And this is Rob in Massachusetts. And let me say, God is a fun God. God created sex. It's fun. And He's a fun God. And when He created us sexual, it says God saw everything He created and it was good. The devil wants us to believe that God's a prude. Okay? So let me talk about a playground for just a minute. Okay, God made sex into a big playground. He made our bodies where we can experience sexual fulfillment in many different ways. There's not just one position that we can have in sex. There are many. There are many ways that we can achieve orgasm in sex in marriage without necessarily having intercourse. In other words, God created sex where we can be adventurous, that it can be exciting for the rest of our lives, rather than this thought that God's grossed out when we're having sex. He's up in heaven going, cut that out. I never had that in mind. Just have the kids and get it over with. Okay. My God is a fun God because my God created sex, and this is His subject. But He put a fence around the playground. And in the Bible, we're told there are certain things that are just not good. And God didn't say not to do them because they're fun, and He was trying to keep us from having fun. He told us not to do it because it'll destroy our lives. And when you see people involved in, adultery and different types of sexual perversions and sexual behaviors that the Bible says just don't do, those people self-destruct and they hurt other people. So there are things that are off limits. Pornography is an example. Jesus said if a man thinks about a woman with intent, that's just the same as adultery. Anytime you invite someone real or imagined into your marriage bed, it's wrong because it hurts the marriage relationship. God's a fun God, but there are parameters that He puts on sex and marriage, and when you respect those parameters with an attitude of sex is fun and my God's a fun God and He wants us to enjoy His creation, which is sex and marriage. People that have that attitude have fun having sex in marriage, and they avoid the dangers that are inherently out there for people who cross the line, who crawl over the fence or tear the fence down. So anyway, Rob, have fun having sex in marriage. Don't go past the fence. That's my advice to you. We hope that this program today is a help to you. We can come to you because of the financial support of our special partners. And one of the groups of partners that we have are our Rock Solid partners who support us every single month financially. And for that, they get a very special resource that no one gets except our Rock Solid partners. Karen and I are asking you to consider being partners with us here in this ministry. We go across America and around the world, and we can only do it because of our precious partners. Would you stand with us financially to send this critical message out to people in need? Here's how you can do it.
When you stand with Marriage Today, your individual effort multiplies with other like-minded partners, and together we can rebuild the dream of marriage for couples around the world. Being a rock-solid partner with Marriage Today grants you immediate access to an exclusive library of the ministry's resources and intimately connects you with our mission of helping couples succeed in marriage.
That's really why we became Rock Solid Partners, just because there was so much available to help us to help other marriages heal the way that we have.
That's why we're tied into the ministry. We want to be able to bless and give so they can keep doing what they're doing.
You're guaranteed if you listen to any of the resources, you read the resources, you come to a conference, you will be changed.
Everyone has something to give, and there are millions of unreached couples who desperately need the marriage-strengthening resources of Marriage Today. That's why we need you to join us. Become a rock-solid partner with the ministry and mission of Marriage Today.
Okay, we're talking about sexual fulfillment in marriage, and you know, Karen, we were answering some questions in that last segment about people who, you know, had questions concerning sex. Such a difficult subject, and so many people have made mistakes, you know, and we made mistakes. I've made horrible mistakes before we got married in this area. So, you know, talk about people and how they deal with that.
Well, I was thinking, you know, when we were answering that, so what came to my mind is, you know, I remember you and I having to go to each other and just, you know, ask each other's forgiveness for the things that we had done that were wrong, whether it was me, you know, not being honest about what I wanted or didn't want, or you bringing, you know, things into the, you know, situation that was just like, no, you know, in other words, we have a past. We all have a past, and no one's perfect. And so I think it's so important as a couple to, you know, go to each other and just say, you know, that was wrong when I did that, or you know, that was something you didn't want, but I wanted it and I was forcing it, or something like that. Is where, you know, you ask each other's forgiveness, and then you just have a clean slate of, you know, let's start fresh. Let's do it God's way. Let's do it the right way, and let's enjoy it. Yeah. You know, and I think what helps, especially for women, is if something's been done wrong, you know, that the woman feels like there's a validation of forgiveness, you know, a validation of you did hurt me, or you weren't being sensitive to me, and it just, you know, just brings in healing.
There's two things that I want to say because that's such an important point, Karen. The first is God forgives us. You know, God is such a forgiving, gracious God. I've counseled so many people, and you have too, Karen, who've had abortions, that committed adultery, that committed, you know, some serious sexual sin, or just made a big mistake. I'm so glad that God's a forgiving God. And God, if we confess to God, God forgives us. But the second thing is what you're saying, be honest and gracious with each other. We need a lot of grace in this area of sex, but what we want you to know and believe is you don't have to go to the devil's side of town to enjoy sex. In fact, that's where you get your heart broken. Our God created sex as the unique feature in marriage to consummate our marriage, to bond us, for us to have a pleasurable relationship for the rest of our lives. And for that to happen, it means that we're always learning, we're always trying, and as Karen said, we're always forgiving. And when you do that, you can experience sex the way that God wants you to. Serve your spouse, be committed to this issue, and be humble and teachable, and you'll have a great marriage for the rest of your life. We're out of time today, but we're so glad that you joined us. We hope this was a blessing. We'll see you next time right here on Marriage Today. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us today. Support Marriage Today with your best gift and receive the series Marriage on the Rock. Don't miss the first ever XO Marriage Conference. Host this simulcast at your church or find a host site by visiting marriagetoday.com/simulcasts. Learn how to successfully date and marry the right person with the life-changing book, The Right One by Jimmy Evans and Frank Martin. Visit rightonebook.com. Become a rock-solid partner today and connect with the mission of Marriage Today. Together, we can help couples succeed in marriage.
This program is made possible by the generous support of our faithful partners.